Yo, Atlas speaking, and welcome back to the Atlas Fanfic channel, the go-to fanfiction channel on YouTube. Today I'm back with the fifth part of What If I Was Reborn in Naruto as a Prodigy half Hyuga and Kaguya. The playlist of the story is above. This part is going to involve a lot of parts that make a big difference in the future of the story, so with that being said, let the tale begin. Enjoy. Chapter 23. I was now no longer being punished and could now roam free. Thankfully my home remained uninvaded and I didn't have to worry about Kushina ambushing me when I didn't expect it. We now had another mission to do for the month. I had requested a mission at or around another ninja village. I wanted to nab some jutsu. Put the Byakugan to use. My mom arrived home, scroll in hand. I got us a C-rank mission to Suna. Good stuff. What's the mission? My mom had a mirthful smile on her face. An escort mission. Fuck! We were escorting a merchant from Konoha to Suna. Which sucked. What sucked even more is, we likely wouldn't be allowed into Suna. I was escorting our client to the gate where my mother was waiting. I tried to use rock, paper, scissors to get out of merchant walking duty, but it was not to be. Mom was much faster than me. Even with my perception slowed, she still beat me. Goda Hidetoshi was the name of the merchant. He also brought his son Ide along for our journey. Hidetoshi had gray hair and brown eyes. His son had both brown hair and eyes. Hidetoshi and his son had what I'd call an average build. They weren't fat, which was a plus. Merchants who could afford to eat whatever they wanted and are not fat were admirable. Most merchants I've met were so fat that their bodies started storing fat in places it shouldn't be, like their face and forehead. We arrived at the southern gate. The plan was that we travel southwest through river country, stopping at Tani, which was River's capital, and from there we'd make our way to Suna. A nice plan. The village hidden in valleys or Tanagakure was located in river country, and maybe I could send a shadow clone to have a peek and see what they had while we were at Tani. There was a second hidden village called Takum Village, or the Village of Artisans, though I wasn't too interested in them, so they'd be left alone for the time being. I looked at my mom. She looked bored. I looked to Ide. He also looked bored. I looked at Hidetoshi. He didn't look any less bored. So, what are you selling, Hidetoshi? I used my hidden move cultivated over many merchant escort missions. Hidetoshi perked up and a smile appeared on his face. I've got a lot of honey, grain, and glassware, most of which I plan to sell in Tani. I'll fill any space I've made with water and bring that to Suna. Social Fu, ask a merchant about his product. Works every time. The trip was quiet. None of us seemed to be much for conversation. Usually this is when Minato would carry the conversation with his charisma. But he was not here, and thus it fell to me to make small talk. Ide and I were at the back of the cart, watching the trees pass. Why are you traveling to Suna, Ide? I didn't care, but idle talk made the journey seem shorter. My mom and Pa are on a break. Mom said she needed space, and Pa's been upset and throwing himself into work, so I'm traveling with him, trying to make sure he's alright, you know? Yikes, now I have to fake sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that. What's your mom's name? Social Fu, continue the conversation with a question. Mom's name is Fwime. Fwime. Nakayama Fumi? He blinked at me. Yeah, that's Mom's family name from before she married Pa. Takuma's has a new girlfriend called Nakayama Fumi. Oh, I've met her before. When your mom said she needed space, she meant she needed some dick. It took us 3 days to reach Tani. Ide and Hidetoshi are going to set up shop and sell what they could for the next 2 days. That left me and Mom to wander around Taki and entertain ourselves. I was far outside of town, standing with my mother preparing to release my seal. I needed that extra chakra to make my clone last. I'm going to release the seal. Mom nodded. Alrighty. The first use of the seal is a go. I brought a tendril of chakra to my seal and gave a twist. Chakra flooded my body and I felt a tingling as the seal spread across my face. I smiled and laugh bubbled from my throat. Ha 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 ha. My grin could only be described as manic. Shiro! I let my head loll backwards so I could make eye contact with Mom. That's me. I eyed my mother. Stop smiling like a creep and make your clone. Oh, yeah. I made a clone, giving it a good part of my chakra. The clone stared at me with a raised eyebrow. Get going, idiot. The clone stuck his tongue before disappearing with a shunshin. I blew a breath out of my nose. I hate clones. I sent a tendril of chakra to my forehead and deactivated the seal. That done, I sat cross-legged and started sending my chakra back into the seal. Phew! What a trip. Having that much chakra saturating my body made me a bit crazy. Let's get going, any nearby ninja will be coming to investigate the spike in chakra. Alrighty. We were seated in our room. So, how did I look with that seal active? Hopefully like a badass. You looked insane. Or not. Did it look cool though? My mother was silent for a moment. It looked cool. I smiled. Good. We had to lay low for the rest of our stay. The clone should have dispelled by now, as the trip to Tanagakure only took half a day. The clone had been active for a day and a half, which wasn't good news for its sanity. Clones get a little silly after a day of existence. Tomorrow we'd set off to Suna, hopefully, the clone dispelled before then. It was midday and I was sitting in our room when my clone dispelled, causing me to sigh. I arrived at Tanagakure. Hinged as my brown-haired cannon fodder teacher minus the headband. Compared to Konoha, this place was hot garbage. Though it did look nice nestled between the mountains. I easily snuck past the walls and into their city. Their sensors were hot garbage as well. I looked at the sun. It was midday, and I had plenty of chakra. So, I'd take my time and explore the city. I walked all around the city, Byakugan active, mentally marking places of interest. There was a bank, the village leader's tower, the academy, the market, and so on, so forth. I spotted a pretty redhead selling vegetables. I approached her with a smile. Hello, miss, has anyone told you how beautiful you are today? She looked at me with disdain, a mocking smile on her face. No, they haven't. Bitch. Well, good luck tomorrow. Her jaw dropped and I left feeling victorious. The day passed and I accomplished nothing of note. I wandered around Taki and pondered robbing their bank/treasury. I decided that I'd give it a try if I had the time, and things went according to plan. I snuck into someone's house and slept on their couch. I got up bright and early and was leaning against the tower, Byakugan active, and reading Tanagakure's version of the Scroll of Seals. I was slowly browsing the techniques while deciding my plan of action for robbing the bank. Barrier shattering technique. If a barrier is active, the user can see an enemy territory and shatter the barrier's source from within while his team lends in chakra. Needed more than one person. Nope. Earth release, coil of earth. The user releases a row of rising earth towards an opponent. Nope. Self-detonation technique. The user can cause themselves to explode with varying effects, from simply blowing open a door to destroying a home. They may be able to control the strength of the explosion, blow up portions of their body, or severe parts of their bodies and let it explode at contact with the enemy. No thanks. Hiding with camouflage technique. Maybe. Hidden, animal possession technique. The user is able to take over the bodies of non-human animals and... I blinked. I focused on an innocent bird that had been staring at me the entire time I had been leaning on the building. Okay then. I focused back onto the scroll. Body elimination technique. The user self-immolates. I didn't plan on dying, so... Nope. Mutual death technique. The user grabs one of their intended victim's hands and forces it to assist in performing the necessary hand seals. Once this is done, the user and the victim die. That's a dark technique. Nope. Release, Jubakugan. This jinjutsu brings out the victim's subconscious negative or hateful emotions. The caster can take advantage of these feelings and control the victim's actions. Nope. Ultimate death beyond terror. More useless jinjutsu. All of Tanegakura's techniques were useless. They had nothing good. I looked at the umbu in the ceiling. There were only two. I focused on the village leader sitting at his desk doing paperwork. He had high Jonin level chakra, nowhere near as much as the Hokage. Weaklings. I focused back on the bird, sitting on the ledge of the roof. It did have a stupid amount of chakra. I started tapping my foot. What do I do now? I focused back onto the scroll. Self-detonation technique. I started cackling. I knew exactly what to do. I walked a distance down the street humming a cheerful tune. I stopped, spun on my heel, and broke into a run straight towards the Kage Tower. A manic grin stretched across my face. I jumped and started making hand seals. I broke through the window. Surprise motherfucker! Boom asterisk. I sighed through my nose and started rubbing my eyes. My clone just tried to assassinate the leader of a village. Why didn't the umbu react to that? Maybe they were surprised. It's a shame the clone didn't see the leader's face. I sighed. What happened to robbing the bank? The clone should have stayed away from the tower. Clones are so stupid. I need to lie down. The mental stress of absorbing a day and a half of memories is a bit too much. It was still dark when I woke up. I looked at the clock. It seems I've slept for 14 hours. I've got 3 hours until everyone's up. I sighed. I used my time to make another bone senbon. My mom woke up, just as I was about to start on my second senbon. Morning. Mom blinked at me with half-lidded eyes. She was still half asleep it seemed. My clone didn't get anything good. Other than a self-detonation technique. Mom yawned and then buried her head into the pillow. Alrighty. I focused back on my senbon. I rolled it between my fingers. Could I make them hollow and fill them with poison? Or are they better coated with poison? Or can I use a hollow senbon to extract stem cells? Mom had showered and was now awake and ready for the day. The clone I sent to Tanegakura didn't find any worthwhile jutsu. Mom wrinkled her nose. Not even a hidden technique? There was one. There was an animal possession technique, but there was a high risk of your human body dying and getting stuck in an animal body if the jutsu was done incorrectly. Which made the technique too dangerous to learn. How do you plan to look at Suna's jutsu? I didn't know. I certainly couldn't use clones. I didn't want another assassination attempt on a foreign Kage. We'll see how it goes. It depends on the layout of Suna. Everyone was packed and ready to go. The only change to our appeal was a wide-brimmed hat and some sunglasses. Hidetoshi and I had replaced a lot of their goods with water. They both looked to be in a good mood, so I assumed that business was good. Everyone ready to go? Yeah. Yep. Yup. Mom blinked at the variation of yes that she got. Alright, let's go. I scratched my chin. How was the cart going to get through the sand? Suna had a sandstone road leading directly to it, which was good for both my chakra and the cart. I figured I'd have to water walk on the sand for the next 2 days. Even walking on the sandstone path, sand still managed to get into my shoes. I take the front of my left shoe on the sandstone, letting the sand escape from the open toe area. I looked at my shoes. They were called tabi boots. They were a boot, with no covering for the toes. The only plausible reason for no coverings was ventilation. I tapped my right shoe, dislodging sand from it as well. Perhaps I can target my enemy's toes. We finally arrived at Suna after 3 days of travel. The trip to Suna was painful, though my pain was only mental. We ditched the father and son pair. They would make their own way into the village. They would employ Suna Ninja for the return trip and make their way back to Konoha at a later time. Thus we were no longer needed. I assumed foreign ninja would not be allowed into Suna. My assumption was false. Mom and I were welcomed quite warmly. We got visitors' passes with strict instruction not to wander after dark, and we were sent on our way. The only thing of note was that they assigned us a room at an inn. It was a nice place, so I had no problems with it. Suna's was much bigger than I had expected. The village was in fortified valley behind cliffs of rock, with passage in and out restricted to a single entrance, making the area very hard to attack from the ground. I couldn't imagine how they kept their people well fed and watered. Then again, they probably didn't. We were sitting in our room. I was in the bed curled up in the blankets. Mom was leaning against the wall, head bowed with sunglasses covering her eyes and using her Byakugan, probably looking for any hidden danger. Why were we let in so easily? I figured it was because they wanted us to spend money in the village. They're grateful we escorted some merchants supplying water and goods. They want us to escort some more merchants here, so they treat us well. And they want us to spend our money here. That's more like it. So, how's it looking? Meaning, is it safe? Not too good. I saw the veins recede from her face. Meaning, keep my mouth shut, we're being watched. Alrighty. Want to go explore what products Suna's got? Mom picked up her backpack and slung it over her shoulders. That answered my question. I copied her and slung my own backpack over my shoulder. Time to look at the market. Suna was doing extremely well. I figured they would be on the verge of economic collapse. But that didn't seem to be the case. The market was bustling and full of life. I looked at their street food, some of it normal, some of it not. I eyed a fried scorpion. I wonder how crunchy that is. I walked side by side with my mom, a stick of small fried scorpions in hand. I was currently trying to summon the will to start on it. I took a deep breath and took a bite. Crunch asterisk. I chewed the scorpion and swallowed. It tastes like beef jerky with a slight fishy taste. It's not that bad. I took another bite. Crunch asterisk. Crunch asterisk. I finished my last bite of fried scorpion. Alrighty. I looked at the Kage Tower in the distance. I just needed to find a bathroom within my Byakugan's range so I could take a peek at their scroll in privacy. Or at least that was the plan. Their big, round, and stupid-looking Kage didn't have any easy shops around it. It seemed to be mostly administrative buildings. I guess I'll keep looking. Chapter 24. What to do? What to do? Suna's Kage Tower was surrounded by non-public buildings. I was having a hard time finding somewhere to sit and peek at their scroll. I thought this would be easy peasy lemon squeezy. But it was actually difficult lemon difficult. Can we go see Suna's Kage building? Plan B. You can see it from here. Why are you being difficult? But I want to see it. I was now dragging her toward the tower. Finally, we were close enough to Suna's ugly ball thing. What a hunk of shit. We were a little less than a kilometer away from the tower. I activated my Byakugan. I noted the two Umbu following us, but quickly dismissed them. I scanned the tower roughly and quickly located where they kept their scrolls. Suna didn't have one forbidden scroll, they had a forbidden bookshelf with many scrolls. Nice. I started scanning the scrolls. Wind release, infinite sand cloud. Nope. Wind release, multi-layered gale. The user creates a wall of multiple layers of vacuum that are stacked on top of each other. This technique can be used to provide additional support to other defensive techniques. Nope. Water release, water blade technique. The user raises a column of underground water from beneath their feet, which takes the shape of a high-pressured water blade. If one were to take a direct hit from the blade, it would cut clean through flesh and bone. Cool, but nope. Third eye technique. The technique Gaara used during the Chunin exam's written test. It requires 10 hand seals. Nope. Magnet release, Imperial Funeral. I don't have magnet release, so. Nope. Memory concealing manipulative sand technique. The user seals away the target's memories by burying an extremely small needle into the brain's memory center. The memories can be restored by canceling the technique, thereby destroying the needle. If a subordinate had this operation performed on their brains and has infiltrated an enemy camp, they can safely perform spy activity over a long period with no memory of being a sleeper agent. This could help enhance their act, as they will fully believe their loyalty lies with the ones they are spying upon. If the user cancels the technique, the target will once again remember their mission as a sleeper agent. Yep. I need to get closer to memorize the seal though. Puppet performance, skillful achievement with a human body. A puppet performance technique where chakra threads are attached to various spots on a person's body, the head, torso, both arms, and both legs. The person being manipulated gains the ability to not only use their techniques but the skills of the puppeteer as well. The origins of this technique lie on the battlefield. When a puppeteer's puppets were all destroyed, they would begin using corpses. To perform this technique with a living person would normally require both parties to cooperate. However, a highly skilled user can control the target by force if the person is severely weakened or damaged, rendering them unable to resist. Maybe. There was some good stuff, but these scrolls noticeably lack Kenjutsu and hidden jutsus. I was mainly looking for the jutsu the old lady uses to revive Gaara. Perhaps they've been hidden elsewhere. Sigh. I already needed to get closer to use Kokoro no Kyoka. I might as well just memorize everything there. Let's get closer. My mom sent me a stern look. Shiro! That's close enough. Meaning stop pushing your luck. Shit. What do I do? Oh! I blinked at the sudden brilliant thought I had. Alright, I've seen enough. We started walking away from the tower. How good is your writing? I got an embarrassed smile in response. Oh boy! We had purchased writing supplies and were now 4 kilometers from the Kage building, sitting in a Dondo shop. Well out of my range, but well within Mom's. I don't know why I hadn't thought of this earlier. Mom was in the bathroom writing down as much as she could in a reasonable time. We would take the book back to our room where I would memorize everything before destroying the book. It was a good plan. Mom didn't want to write down anything in case we were caught with it. But I eventually persuaded her. Though I probably could have done it myself with telescopic vision. A waitress interrupted my thoughts. Excuse me, sir, would you like something to drink? What do they drink in Suna? What are my options? The waitress smiled sweetly. Yes or no? I blinked. Yes, please. The waitress gave me another smile before she left. Bitch. We left the restaurant and got back to our room in one piece. Mom closed the curtains before handing me the book she had hidden in her backpack. Thanks, I'll memorize it. Mom raised an eyebrow but nodded. I cracked it open and flipped around until I found the thing I was the most excited about. Memory concealing manipulative sand technique. The seal she drew wasn't pretty, but I got the point. I activated Kokoro no Kyoka and burned the seal into my memory. I then ripped the page from the booklet and ate it. Shiro! My mom of course wasn't happy. A few chakra-enhanced bites and the page was no more. Sorry, I was hungry. I didn't need that page to exist any longer than necessary. There were a lot of magnet release techniques, more than I had originally seen. There were also pages and pages of wind release techniques. I don't know why Mom wrote these down. I sighed and started memorizing the book page by page. Dawn broke and it was the start of a new day. Sadly, this was the day we leave. If I had a few more days, I would have poked around more, maybe take a peek at their library. But sadly, Mom was extremely eager to leave. So, I wouldn't be raiding Suna's library. We made it past the gate without trouble. I expected a bag search of some kind, but no such thing happened. They did watch us the whole time. But still, a little extra cation never hurt anyone. What should we do with the techniques we stole? Keep them? What do you have in mind? I raised an eyebrow. We either give them to the Hokage or the clan head. Oh! I forgot she was loyal to Konoha. I eyed her for a second. Will we get praised for sneaking into Suna and stealing their scrolls? Or will we be punished for risking potential conflict? Mom frowned and didn't answer. I only really planned on stealing these for myself. I had no intention of giving them to anyone. This was more of a test run. I didn't think things would go this well. It's up to you. I'd put the choice on her shoulders. We talked while we traveled. It was decided that our stealing would remain between us. Mom didn't want the reputation of being a thief, and I didn't want to give up my hard-earned loot. I traveled 8 days to steal those jutsu after all. I didn't feel like sharing. The trip back only took 3 days. The trip was much easier without the father-son duo slowing us down. I started asking Mom questions about her life, trying to pass the time. Mom told me stories about her Genin team and the shenanigans they got up to. Sadly, she was the last surviving member of the team. The team split up after the Chunin exams and slowly died off one by one. She told me about her parents and how her father died when she was young. Her mother was around for a while longer but died on a mission gone wrong when she was 17. We chatted and I got to know my mother better, something I wouldn't have imagined could occur just 2 years ago. We passed through the gate with no trouble. Mom disappeared with a shunshin and I followed her soon after heading home. Mom had beaten me home and thus beaten me to the shower. I was extremely annoyed. Although I bathed in any rivers or streams I passed, it just couldn't compare to a warm shower. As if to taunt me, Mom started humming a cheerful tune. Knock asterisk, knock asterisk, knock asterisk. Hurry it up. I want my shower. The next day I sent 3 clones off to start on Fuinjutsu in the 3rd training ground. Suna's memory seal renewed my enthusiasm for sealing. I couldn't wait to start making seals. I figured there'd be plenty of clone deaths, but as they returned any remaining chakra to me, I could continue to send them to their deaths, gaining valuable knowledge in the process. Lovely, I thoroughly enjoyed it when I didn't have to pay for my mistakes. I was storing my remaining chakra in my seal when Mom interrupted me. Do you have any plans Friday? Lay in bed while my clones use their deaths to advance my Fuinjutsu. No, do you have something in mind? I didn't want to do anything. Makoto's invited us to dinner. Do you want to come? No thanks. Not interested. Mom cracked a smile. Let me rephrase that. Makoto's invited us to dinner and you're coming. Why did you pretend I had a choice in the matter? I had 3 days until Makoto's dinner. I occupied myself by practicing lightning release while my clones worked on Fuinjutsu. I wasn't making much progress in either, but then again I'd only been working on them for a while. Progress would come with time. The day of the dinner arrived. Mom had forced me into a white kimono and sternly lectured me on proper manners. My manners were fine. We stood in front of Makoto's house. It was a traditional-looking building. I could already hear Kushina's laughter from outside. Sigh. My mom didn't wait for me to compose myself and knocked right away. Knock asterisk, knock asterisk, knock asterisk. After a few seconds I heard the knob jiggle and the door opened. Shiro, Sumiko, I'm glad you could make it. I didn't have much choice. We were let inside. After we took our shoes off we were walked to the dining room where Minato, Kushina, Kakashi, and who I guess was Fugaku were sitting. Fugaku had brown hair and black eyes. I had expected him to have black hair. He wore a simple kimono with gray pants which had the Uchiha emblem on them. I decided that I probably shouldn't be staring and turned away. I saw there was an empty seat beside Kakashi and figured that was for me. I made my way over to my apparent seat. "Hello, Kakashi." Kakashi sent me a dull stare and didn't respond. Okay then. I took a seat and watched the proceedings. Minato and Fugaku were talking. Fugaku didn't seem to like Minato and was giving him the cold shoulder. Mom, Kushina, and Mikoto seemed to be the best of friends and were chatting and having a blast. Mom was telling them about our boring mission, of course excluding any jutsu theft. Though I doubted the Uchiha would care about jutsu theft. So, we decided to try for a baby. I tuned into the end of what Mikoto was saying. I blinked. I looked at Fugaku, who looked slightly embarrassed. So, is there going to be a baby Itachi soon? Cool. I wonder if there's a way to make non-crazy clones. I would have used a clone to attend the dinner if I was confident it wouldn't cause havoc. Minato spoke, knocking me out of my thoughts. What have you been up to, Shiro? I've been practicing Fuinjutsu and thinking about ways to get to the moon to capture an Otsutsuki. I've been learning Fuinjutsu. Minato raised an eyebrow. How's it going? Not well. Not well, everything I make explodes. Minato nodded. Fuinjutsu gets easier to learn after everything you make stops exploding. I think he's telling me to stick it out. Feel free to come to me and Kushina if you have any questions. How nice of him. I understand. I nodded in thanks to Minato, before continuing. If at first you don't succeed, find some who has succeeded, kill them, eat their flesh, and absorb their essence, and then succeed. The entire table was silent, and everyone was looking at me. Mom mouth cut it out. That was a joke. Nobody laughed. Alrighty. Eventually food was brought out, and everyone was served. I had stayed quiet but figured I might as well make another attempt at conversation with Kakashi. What's new, Kakashi? Kakashi didn't answer for a moment. I'm practicing lightning nature transformation. Starting on the path to the Chidori, are we? Nice. I sent him a nod and a thumbs up. I didn't know how to continue the conversation. Topic change. Kakashi, recently I learned a valuable lesson recently and I would like to share it with you. Kakashi looked skeptical but nodded. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Give a fish a man and he'll eat for a week. I nodded seriously, and Kakashi looked weirded out. Finally, we made it through dinner and it was time to go. Kushina ambushed me as I was leaving and squeezed the life out of me. She told me she missed me and that I should visit her. After many promises, I was released. Mom and I made our way out of the Uchiha compound and started heading home. We arrived home without fanfare. Alright, I'm going to bed. Mom nodded. Good night, Shiro. I gave a little wave as I walked towards the shower. Night. We were eating breakfast the next morning when I popped the question. Should I enter the Chunin exams? Mom shook her head. You should wait around a year before you take it. I'm approaching Jonin level and I don't want to stagnate doing Jinin missions for long. With my different enhancements and my seal, I was very much unbeatable to anyone below Jonin level. Sigh, you can do the Chunin exam when you turn 8. So, in 10 months? Sounds good. I'll work on lightning release and Fuinjutsu until then. Mom nodded. I need to teach you how to hide your chakra as well, as it is, you're a giant beacon of chakra. Alrighty, hopefully, that wouldn't be too hard. I was using today to test an idea I had for a lightning jutsu. It was just a more guided version of lightning palm. Instead of letting the current run rampant, I was trying to make it target something. Mainly the heart or nerves. I wanted it to kill with a strike or cause immense pain. Both suited me fine. Sadly, the creation of the technique required a test subject. I didn't have one at the moment, so I was striking trees and trying different variations of chakra to see what happened. I wasn't making much progress, but I was learning. And that's all I needed to do. As long as I kept progressing, things would be fine. Or at least I hoped so. Interlude. Shiro and Sumiko arrived, completing Makoto's list of guests and signaling the start of the dinner. Shiro was a bundle of nervous energy. He couldn't stop himself from tapping his foot or fiddling with his kimono sleeves. The only time Shiro seemed relaxed and happy was just after he fought. The only time I had ever seen Shiro get a full 8 hours of sleep was after he killed a cave full of bandits by himself and then experimented on them. Shiro was a special one. Shiro took a seat next to Kakashi and I returned to my conversation with Fugaku, putting Shiro out of mind. Fugaku and I have known each other for a long time and are sure of our love, so we decided to try for a baby. The girls' conversation gained the attention of the entire table at Makoto's words. Everybody gave their good wishes and conversation continued, this time about baby names. Conversation between Fugaku and I had died down, so I had to find someone else to converse with. I looked at Shiro and sent him my best smile. What have you been up to, Shiro? Other than the normal hiding from human contact and experimenting on criminals. I've been learning Fuinjutsu. I raised an eyebrow and cocked my head. How's it going? It's good. Shiro's found a way to occupy his time. Not well, everything I make explodes. I nodded. Fuinjutsu gets easier to learn after everything you make stops exploding. After I was no longer in danger of losing my limbs, Fuinjutsu was smooth sailing. Feel free to come to me in Kushina if you have any questions. For all his faults, Shiro was good company. I didn't mind teaching him and spreading the craft of Fuinjutsu to future generations. I understand. Shiro trailed off as he dipped his head to me, but then continued. If at first you don't succeed, find some who has succeeded, kill them, eat their flesh, and absorb their essence, and then succeed. The entire table was silent. Shiro seemed to have realized no one shared his humor. Though part of the problem was his deadpan delivery, no one could tell it was a joke. That was a joke. Sigh. Eventually, Makoto brought out the sukiyaki and everyone was served. I idly watched Shiro and Kakashi attempt to make conversation. What's new, Kakashi? Kakashi and Shiro were both painfully socially awkward, leading to painful but entertaining exchanges between the two. I'm practicing lightning nature transformation. Kakashi had recently become Chunin and started on learning lightning release. Nice. Shiro said. Kakashi a nod and thumbs up. Kakashi, recently I learned a valuable lesson and I would like to share it with you. Shiro started killing the conversation, something he often does when he gets nervous. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Kakashi rolled his eyes, making Shiro smirk. Give a fish a man and he'll eat for a week. Shiro nodded seriously, and Kakashi cocked his head in confusion. Oh, Shiro. Everyone had eaten and it was getting late. Kushina caught Shiro before he could slip away and hugged him to prevent any possible escape. Shiro! I miss you. You never come around anymore. She shook Shiro, emphasizing how much she missed him. Shiro, you definitely have to visit more often. Shiro was tense. He didn't enjoy contact of any kind unless initiated by himself. No worries, Kushina. I'll drop by more often. He likely wouldn't. Kushina mentally exhausted Shiro. He never hung around with her for more than a few hours, and even then he would hide for the next few days to recharge. You better, Shiro. Kushina was banned from Shiro's residence by Sumiko after she ambushed him early one morning. The only thing she could do was invite him over after she had been banned from invading his safe space, as Sumiko had put it. I will. I will. Stop shaking me. Eventually, Shiro was released and he eagerly made his way out of the Uchiha compound with Sumiko trailing behind him. He wasn't a bad kid, but his apathy and disregard for human life made me wary of him. Though perhaps I was mistaken. Time would tell. Chapter 26. I was sitting in the house watching the remaining ninja. He was short with pure white hair and purple eyes. He was slowly checking each house and making his way to my own. He wasn't a censor. Then again, the others weren't as well. He approached our house and took a look in the window. I jumped at the wall, my Byakugan and Shikaku no Kyoka active. Boom asterisk. I burst from the wall barreling towards him with a one-for-all enhanced punch. The punch got him, but he promptly turned to liquid upon contact with my fist. I blinked. A clone? He reformed right before my eyes. I blinked again. He took out his Tonto and charged me without a word. I sent another one-for-all punch, only this time stronger. Poof asterisk. Half his body scattered into water droplets, only to reform a second later. Cool! I grinned. He came at me again, and I again scattered him with a one-for-all punch. I was thoroughly enjoying fighting an opponent that didn't turn into a bloody mist when I punched them. Sadly, I couldn't play for much longer. I struck his arms with some gentle fist strikes while he was reforming. He tried to move his arms with no success. It seems he's only immune to physical attacks. Chakra seems to work fine. He jumped back, putting some distance between us. What did you do? Sorry friend, I'd love to chat, but I've got things to do. I started towards him and he did the same. His body turned into liquid and started squirming towards me. That looks gross. Sorry friend. I made a hand sign and launched a stream of lightning at him. It was extremely effective. He returned to his human form unconscious. I walked over and struck him in the heart. My enemy was no more. I sealed him up and disappeared in a shunshin towards the direction my mom left in. Mom, as it turns out, wasn't very far. She had kept me within her range and circled the village, keeping the hunter-nin busy. I was supposed to flee and return with help from Konoha. It sounded like she wanted to sacrifice herself to save me. Not on my watch. I shunshined behind her slowest pursuer and tapped him on the back of the neck, severing his spine with my chakra scalpels. Ambush! He fell from the branch. Crack asterisk. I blinked. What did he break? I didn't expect him to speak. My super surprising surprise attack did as I expected. Though I now had everyone's attention. Everyone was staring at each other. We were at a tense standoff. It's a lovely night to bathe in the blood of a child. I chuckled. Way to ruin the atmosphere, weirdo. Things were quiet for a moment. Mom looked positively ferocious and jumped at the weirdo starting their fight. Mom and the weirdo took their fight elsewhere, leaving me and the last ninja staring at each other. So, how's your day been? Let no one say I wasn't polite. It was good until you killed my nephew. Which one was his nephew? Sorry about that. He shook his head. It's part of the trade. His piece said. He launched a handful of senbon in my direction. I dropped to the ground, avoiding them before he had even completed his throw. I watched him go through some hand signs. He pointed both of his hands at me, making finger guns, and promptly launched a huge blast of water in my direction. Nope. I shunshined behind him, hitting him with a one-for-all punch. My hand went straight through him. Ah, another water person. I jumped away, letting him reform. So, what clan do you belong to? I was stalling so I could focus on Mom's fight. She was kicking ass. I don't know why she was so worried. I also wanted to know what bloodline let him know my punches. He didn't have white hair like the other guy, but he did share the same purple eyes. I'm a member of the Hozuki clan. That sounds familiar. Ah, Kiri had a Kaguya from that clan. I heard Kiri had a Kaguya from your clan. He didn't waste any time and jumped at me, running through 3 hand seals. Small talk ignored. His right arm bulged and became extremely muscular. He swung his sword at me using his enlarged arm. I met his strike with my own one-for-all enhanced punch. Boom asterisk. Our clash created a shockwave that rustled the nearby trees. We both jumped back to gain space. I eyed his sword. Can he even use physical attacks without the sword? Would he just turn into the water with every impact? We continued staring at each other. I took a deep breath, used a single hand sign, and my right hand sparked with blue lightning. My opponent tensed, which was a good sign. I increased the amount of electricity on my hand. I sent him a cheeky wink and sunshine to his left and struck him in the ribs with my hand. His body seized, and I used my other hand to attack his leg and disable it. I jumped back and looked at him, waiting for some other trick or hidden move. He looked resigned, his arm deflated, and regained its normal appearance. You're a monster, kid. Thanks, I try. Thank you. I sent him a nod. He shook his head. It wasn't a compliment. He tensed before his whole body liquefied, and he sprung at me. A single hand sign and a lightning arrow struck the jumping blob. He returned to human form and kneeled on the ground, still conscious. I readied another more powerful lightning arrow to finish him, though it seems he beat me to it. Ha ha ha, I'm glad I won't live to see a monster like you grow any further. He burst into a tower of flaming blue chakra. I jumped back, putting more space between us. There was no explosion, his body just disintegrated. I haven't seen that before. Seeing that there was no danger, I focused on Mom's fight. She seemed to be finishing up, the weirdo's arm was dangling and he was favoring his left leg. A few hand signs and a clone popped into existence. He wandered off to find the other Hunternin's body and make sure the villagers were okay. I focused back on my mother. She seemed fine, but I figured I should ask. I signed a message at her. Need enemy assistance. I then gave a thumbs up and then a thumbs down. She gave me a thumbs down and engaged her enemy again. Alrighty. I guess I was watching then. Mom was playing with her opponent. She'd give him an opening, and when he went for it, she'd strike him, destroying his body. She slowly, strike by strike, destroyed his body until he could no longer even stand. Eventually, she obliterated his head with a Rasengan. I decided she had things well in hand. I deactivated my Byakugan and Shikaku no Kyoka. I started making my way to the village. I dispersed my clone. The villagers had stayed put. I figured they'd run and scatter into the forest, but apparently not. They just huddled together, awaiting whatever fate they'd be subject to. They should have scattered. It would at least annoy the Hunternin had they chased them, and it would lighten the burden Mom and faced in taking them to another town. I had the younger Hozuki laid in front of me. Other than the high amount of moisture in his body, there was nothing of note. As far as I could tell anyway. Meaning his fluidization had more to do with his chakra. I heard a displacement of air behind me, signaling Mom's arrival. So, what's the plan now? I wanted to let the villagers fend for themselves. I wasn't interested in playing shepherd. You should be more on guard, Shiro. I am. I don't have to worry, with you watching my back. Besides, I've got an interesting subject to focus on. Shiro, seal him up before his chakra fades. Or not. We left the village in the morning. The women had hooked up a cart and were now traveling in style. That style being surrounded by children and taking everything they could fit on themselves and the cart. A kid with brown hair and eyes interrupted my piece. Do you think I could become a ninja like you? Not unless you're a descendant of literal space gods. Yes. With hard work anything is possible. The kid smiled at me and left. Hopefully the kid didn't become a ninja. Having brown hair and eyes meant you were cannon fodder in the Naruto verse. We made it to the nearby village. It was a little deeper into Noodle country and pretty unremarkable. So, can we leave now? They added another day onto the mission, something I was unhappy about. Yes, their fate is in their own hands now. They were citizens of Noodle country, so we had no obligation to help them. Unless Mom was feeling generous. Which didn't seem to be the case. We departed, leaving the villagers on the outskirts of the village. You've been quiet, what's on your mind? I was pondering making a chakra drill on my finger similar to the Rasengan. I'd like to poke people and have them die. Not that I didn't already do a lot of that. I was thinking of ways to improve my taijutsu. Mom shook her head and sighed. Sigh, of course you are. What's that mean? I raised an eyebrow. You're already Jonin level, you should slow down and enjoy life. I was enjoying life, what wasn't fun about creating new techniques? Alright. I said instead, I didn't want to argue. Mom sighed again. Anyways, this will probably get you bumped up to Tokubetsu Jonin at least. Which was good, I wasn't interested in the Chunin exams. So? She was bringing it up because she had some sort of point, she wouldn't have mentioned it otherwise. Meaning you will have new responsibility and opportunities. I wasn't getting it. Like what? Mom took a deep breath, she looked like she was annoyed that I wasn't getting it. You will be expected mentor graduating Genin teams and pass or fail them depending on how they've done. You also might be offered a position in the Umbu or somewhere else. Meaning root probably. I'm not interested in joining the Umbu. Mom nodded. Wise choice. She took another deep breath. This mission might become a A-ranked or S-ranked mission depending on how much they value the Hozuki corpse. Why an S-ranked mission? What makes the corpse so important? Probably potential bloodline theft. It becomes more important depending on how many village secrets the body revels. As far as I knew, they mainly looked into chakra types, herbs eaten, ninjutsu, special medicine used, and Kekkei Genkai when examining recovered bodies. Alrighty. I yawned. I didn't understand what might make the corpse so valuable, I decided to put it out of mind. I wouldn't gain anything from thinking about it. We arrived at Konoha in the evening. I was able to escape from having to attend the debriefing after writing my mission report. So, I made my way home eager for a shower. Hopefully Mom's account was enough, she had seen everything after all. I was tired and grumpy, hopefully they didn't need me, I didn't have the energy to be pleasant to be around at the moment. It was a new day and I was feeling better than I had yesterday. We have a meeting with the Hokage tomorrow. Though that might change. What's he want? Probably to discuss promotion. He wants to discuss possible promotion and he wants to hear about your version of the engagement. I sighed. I included my fights in my report. Don't sigh at me, writing white-haired guy nope my punches by turning into creepy liquid doesn't accurately describe your engagement with the enemy. I think that described plenty. Though to be fair I was in a foul mood when I wrote that. Alright, thanks. Now I needed to work on the Chidori or some other way to put my hand through my opponent's chest. Also, we need to go see a cousin of mine, her name's Shime and she just had a baby and has been bugging me to visit her. It seems I wouldn't be putting my hand through anyone for a while. I was sitting while holding baby Sakai while Mom and Shime chatted and did dishes. Hariyama, Shime's husband, sat across from me and watched as I rocked baby Sakai. You're very good with babies. You've only seen me with one baby. Yes, I'm surprised it's going so well. Hariyama inclined his head. It's a good thing I'm sitting, usually I'd have dropped the baby at least twice by now. I've never held a baby before, but who didn't apricot a little humor? I think I'll take her back now. Hariyama snatched little Sakai from me, evidently not apricoting my joke. Thanks for letting me hold her, it's the first time I've held a baby without dropping it. The look of horror I got was delicious. Don't worry about it, the baby wouldn't remember being dropped. The look of disgust I got only furthered my desire to bother him. You don't drop babies, do you? No, I do not. No, that was supposed to be a joke. Though it was only for my amusement. Dropping babies is not a laughing matter. Clearly. If you had seen someone dropping a baby, you'd understand how funny it was. Hariyama huffed and left the room, meaning further conversation was successfully avoided. Oh, well. I looked at the kitchen. Mom and Chime were still chatting. I think it's time I bail. I had regained my day and was now ready to experiment. I had tried to create Chidori many times with no success. I had long forgotten any training Sasuke did to learn the Chidori, or if his training was even shown. So, I needed to create something different. I wanted to create a spinning drill of chakra around my hand. Similar to the Rasengan, it would require no hand seals. Or at least that was the plan. It shouldn't be too hard as I already did something similar with the Rasengan. Chapter 27. It was a new day and I had around 4 hours until I met with the Hokage. Meaning emergency rations was getting a stem cell transplant, and if things went well I'd use those stem cells to repair any damage that happened while I tried to enlarge his chakra system. And when I came back from the meeting with the Hokage, I'd try to grow organs with stem cells. If that worked out, I'd just have to regrow my Byakugan if it ever got damaged. Or maybe I could grow Byakugan in other people. That was quite the thought, growing Byakugan in others. I liked the idea, but I imagined the Hyuga clan wouldn't. If I could regrow organs, that would be a huge contribution to the village, perhaps enough to get a lab. Thoughts for later. The meeting with the Hokage approached. Emergency rations had his chakra capacity increased, but his chakra density and regeneration remained the same. Meaning even if he had the capacity of a Genin, he couldn't regenerate chakra like someone at Genin level should be able to. Forcefully expanding his chakra network caused his pathways to become thin and fragile, so it wasn't something I'd do to myself, though perhaps they would heal over time. The natural expansion of the chakra network seemed to be the way to go for the moment. Even though it didn't completely work, I'd still created a ninja rabbit. All he needed now was an increase in physical and spiritual energy. Physical energy could be increased with liberal use of Kinryoku Kyoka, but I was unsure about how I could increase emergency rations' spiritual energy. I eyed emergency rations as he was enjoying some fruit. I can't teach him how to meditate. Yet. Perhaps in the future. I sat in the waiting room pondering the wonders of ninjutsu. So far it had been useless. But all the strongest ninjas seemed to toss ninjutsu around like there was no tomorrow. Should I bother learning more nature transformations? I had already planned on learning Earth Release, but it seemed like a huge time sink for no real reason. I did also have a ton of wind jutsu from Suna, though Suna seemed to have kept their Kenjutsu and Haiden Jutsu elsewhere. I was happy having a lot of options should I want to learn. It was probably pointless to think about learning another nature transformation when I hadn't even gotten that far into lightning ninjutsu. I only had 5 techniques to my name after all. I was close to giving up learning any more nature releases. They seemed to be huge time sinks. My time might be better spent elsewhere. Shiro Hyuga, the Hokage will see you now. Alrighty. I made my way to the Hokage's office and knocked on the door. Knock asterisk knock asterisk knock asterisk. Enter! Showtime! I made my way inside and stood in front of the Hokage, who had been eyeing me as I entered. I stood in silence, while the Hokage stared at me. Finally, the Hokage spoke. Shiro Hyuga, due to your contribution during your recent mission and significant combat potential, I'm promoting you to Tokubetsu Jonin. I bowed at my waist. Thank you, Hokage-sama. I kept my bow for a few seconds before rising. The office had descended into silence. I wondered if this was deliberate or if the Hokage was just getting old and forgot what he was doing. You and your mother will remain on the same team as it has been effective thus far. That was ideal as far as I was concerned, more time with my mother and possibly more dangerous missions. 2 things I liked the sound of. You're dismissed. This meeting was short. I sent the Hokage another bow. Thank you for your time, Hokage-sama. I started retreating from the room. I had a rabbit to experiment on after all. Shiro. I was enjoying some pre-experimentation jerky when my mother interrupted me. Yes? I looked at the cage containing emergency rations. He seemed to be doing well. Every decision made in fear is wrong. Every decision you make should be made in confidence. What? What brought this on? Why was I getting advice? I was just thinking about all the advice I wish my parents had given me before they passed. Meaning she didn't want to leave me with regrets. Thanks. I sent her an appreciative nod. I meant it. It means a lot that she was thinking about me. Though an I love you would be nice as well. Come give me a hug. Every touching moment needs a hug. Mom didn't agree and fled the room. I blinked. All right. No hugs for me. I looked back to emergency rations. He was blissfully unaware of what was about to happen. Emergency rations seemed to be doing fine, though he was now well muscled. I opted to just speed up cell division and shorten his lifespan a tad. I'd see how stem cell transplants worked in maintaining youth. Though there seemed to be a bit of cell rejection, it wasn't as bad as I had expected. Perhaps chakra had something to do with it? Now what I needed to do was grow some organs. Perhaps emergency rations needed a second heart? One could never have enough hearts after all. Though I think I'll wait until tomorrow. Interlude. Hyuga Kaguya, Shiro. Gender, evil. Birthdate, November 9th, 1211. Age, 8 years. Rank, Genin. Marital status, single. Textual summary of the report. Openness to experience. 3/100, very low. Traditionalist, down-to-earth, practical, conservative, prefers traditional outlooks and technical problem-solving, experimental. Conscientiousness. 95/100, very high. Conscientious, disciplined, efficient, well-organized, likes precise detail, strong sense of duty, could be described a workaholic. Extroversion. 1/100, very low. Reserved, formal, serious, quiet, prefers working alone, avoids direct leadership roles. Agreeableness. 55/100, middle. Hard-headed, skeptical, competitive, good-natured. Prefers competition over cooperation. Natural reactions. 88/100, high. Experiences negative emotional reactions and feelings of anxiety, prone to worry, easily upset, playful. Note: Shiro doesn't respect social norms. He consistently oversteps social boundaries. Very little regard is shown for people not close to himself. Shiro has displayed the battle lust that the Kaguya are known for, but it has not shown to be a hindrance. Most of Shiro's free time is spent with Might Guy. Even then, Shiro is training, so it is debatable if this could be considered free time. Looking at Shiro's personality evaluation provided very little information that I couldn't already glean from my meetings with the boy. Shiro's analytical reasoning, memory, mental speed, spatial IQ, logic IQ, and nonverbal IQ were ridiculously high, surpassing everyone in his age range, though some scores were average. He was also described as a chakra savant, though I didn't get the impression he was mentally deficient. He was perhaps a prodigy, similar to myself and Orochimaru. Shiro reminded me of a young Orochimaru who was also complex, though lacking Orochimaru's sadistic nature and manic ambition. Thankfully, he doesn't create conflict to ease his boredom, instead opting to make jokes. Creating conflict was one of Orochimaru's hobbies that I found most distasteful, not including human experimentation. Something he and Shiro seemed to have in common, though thankfully Shiro had turned to animals as of late. Shiro also seemed to have a penchant for body modifications, as Orochimaru does, though thankfully to a lesser extent, so far only improving his eyes. Though that could change in the future. Orochimaru was once a child as well before he became what he is today. Hopefully, Shiro wouldn't follow in his footsteps. It's probably for the best I keep them separated. Shiro doesn't need any ideas from Orochimaru. Sigh. Shiro also lacked the will of fire. He did not see the village as a family as I did, then again neither did Orochimaru, and he turned out fine. Unstable, but fine. Though at least Shiro had things he loved and would protect. I should put it out of mind. I flipped through his mission report. It would provide insight into his thought process. We arrived at the border of Noodle Country and quickly found the village/house Ryoko was occupying. It was decided that I would fight Ryoko while my mother guarded the civilians. Ryoko was occupied with some village woman who I deemed acceptable casualties. Even though them dying wouldn't be a huge loss, I'd rather not deny a child his mother, so I elected to eject Ryoko from the house. A chuckle escaped my lips. According to Sumiko, Shiro had burst into the building, punched the missing nin through a wall and into the street. Eject was an apt word to describe what happened. Ryoko was in an embarrassing state of undress. So, I kindly offered a temporary truce so Ryoko could dress. My kind offer was ignored and Ryoko ran at me only wearing his shoes. I decided that such a pervert shouldn't be allowed to live for longer than necessary. Our fight was quick. I disabled Ryoko's arm in our first engagement and removed his head from his body when he tried to flee. I came out ahead in the engagement. Shiro liked to amuse himself by making dark jokes and making others uncomfortable. Even during mission reports. My mother and I regrouped. It was decided that we would escort the villagers to the nearest village. We would leave in the morning after the villagers were healed and had gathered their things. Sadly, our plans were interrupted. 400 nin interrupted my beauty sleep, earning my ire. My mother decided that she would distract the 100 nin while I fled to Konoha for reinforcements. I heavily disagreed but was not given the chance to voice my opinion as my mother had jumped out the window before I could protest. 3 of the 100 nin followed her as she fled, leaving the last to search the village. I decided that I wouldn't be returning to Konoha alone and engaged the remaining 100 nin. The white-haired guy noped my punches by turning into creepy liquid. I'd call the liquid snot-like. Disobeying orders from a superior. But also saving Sumiko from certain death. Sumiko likely talked to him about disobeying orders, so I won't bring it up. And comparing the Hozuki's hydrification technique to snot. I punched him again and disabled his arms as he reformed. He turned into snot and jumped at me, likely trying to suffocate me. I decided that I was having none of that and shocked him with a lightning jutsu. He reformed unconscious. I killed him as I didn't want him interfering with later fights. I ran after my mother and caught up with her in little time. I employed a sneak attack and killed the slowest 100 nin. He had time to warn his teammates of danger, so sadly I couldn't further thin the herd. We stared at each other for a while until Mom broke the stalemate and started fighting one of the 100 nin. They took their fight a distance away while I and the last 100 nin remained. I and the other 100 nin made polite conversation where I apologized for killing his nephew. Making polite conversation and apologizing for killing his nephew. I stroked my beard. The 100 nin started the engagement by tossing some senbon at me, which I promptly avoided. He used the time his thrown senbon had bought to launch a water ninjutsu at me. I shoe shined behind him and tried to punch him in the spine. He turned into snot and my hand passed right through him. I tried to engage in some small talk but was ignored. I quirked my eyebrow. Small talk? His arm turned huge and muscular and provided him with a boost in strength. We clashed, our strengths matching. We both jumped back and stared at each other, realizing that another clash wouldn't benefit me. I started preparing a lightning jutsu. The 100 nin didn't seem to like that I had lightning on my hand and tensed. This action confirmed my thought that his snot body had a weakness to lightning release. I shunshined to him and struck him with my jutsu. I used the opportunity to cut the tendons in his leg, preventing escape. In a last-ditch attempt in winning the fight, the 100 nin turned into snot and jumped at me. He was pretty much asking to be shocked. Jumping made him an easy target, so I struck him with a powerful lightning jutsu. He reformed and kneeled looking defeated. I readied my finishing blow, but he beat me to the punch and took his own life, making his body unrecoverable in the process. My fight done with, I sent a clone to check on the villagers while I checked in on my mother. I didn't need to read any further. Sumiko's report had covered their return trip. I skimmed some earlier mission reports. The lower the mission rank, the more ridiculous the report. Perhaps silly should be listed as a notable trait. I flipped through Shiro's file, taking note of his combat assessment. Taijutsu, 4.5/5. Ninjutsu, 4.5/5. Genjutsu, 0 out of 5. Intelligence, 5 out of 5. Strength, 4 out of 5. Speed, 5 out of 5. Stamina, 4.5 out of 5. Hand seals, 3/5. Total, May 29th, 40. What I've seen from his training made me sure these ratings were accurate. Though perhaps his physical scores should be lower, Shiro fell short in terms of Genjutsu, and his physical attributes were only that strong when he used ninjutsu to supplement them. His score should perhaps be closer to 25. He was lacking experience as well, though he had the strength to be a jonin when he was using ninjutsu. He excelled in taijutsu and medical ninjutsu but was lacking in other areas. Something that could be rectified in time. I made up my mind. Shiro Hyuga would be promoted to Tokubetsu Jonin. Shiro was a prodigy. If properly nurtured, his contribution to the village might surpass my own. Though that would perhaps be a long time off. Knock asterisk, knock asterisk, knock asterisk. Enter! The boy entered and stood at attention in front of my desk. I took the time to eye him. He looked small. He didn't look like he could kill 3 experienced Kiri Hunter nin. He was only 8 and already had chakra reserves higher than most jonin. And his reserves are nowhere near done growing. Young Shiro had gotten nervous and was shifting his feet. Shiro Hyuga, due to your contribution during your recent mission and significant combat potential, I'm promoting you to Tokubetsu Jonin. That and politics, the more influence Shiro had, the safer he was from the Hyuga clan. Thank you, Hokage-sama. He bowed deeply. I wanted to put Shiro on a different team but was doubtful he would make any bonds, which was what he needed. Shiro had few people tying him to the village, and thus few things that could be used to control him. Those that were powerful, unrestrained, and uncooperative often had unfortunate accidents during missions. Something Danzo swore he wasn't involved in. I suppressed the urge to roll my eyes. Danzo wasn't fooling anyone. I wanted Shiro to make bonds so I couldn't put him in Umbu, he would only further seclude himself there. I couldn't put him in a team of people older than himself, as it was likely he wouldn't become invested in the lives of his teammates should there be a drastic age difference. Perhaps he would become invested should he train a team himself. But he was 8 and was too young to mentor any genin. Perhaps my only option is to keep him with Sumiko. He seemed to be doing well with her. You and your mother will remain on the same team as it has been effective thus far. When my guy graduates, perhaps Sumiko, Shiro, Guy, and a 4th member can form a team. Perhaps Asuma. You're dismissed. Maybe more options will present themselves in the future, but for now my hands seem tied. Thank you for your time, Hokage-sama. I took my pipe from my desk. I'll indulge a little. Chapter 28. Half a year passed. Not much changed. I got a jonin jacket that stayed tucked away in my closet. My promotion came with an increase in mission level. We now sometimes did A-rank missions. Which wasn't so bad, as I enjoyed fighting stronger enemies. I had dropped nature release for the most part, as I seemed to lack talent in it. I'd still keep learning new lightning releases and improving old ones, but that was as far as I'd go. Even with 3 clones working on lightning release every day for nearly a year, I made little progress. I couldn't imagine how long it'd take for me to learn a nature release that I didn't have an affinity for. I wasn't sure if I'd regret this in the future, as almost every strong ninja knew more than one nature release. But I could always come back to it in the future. Emergency rations was whole and hale, though he had all of his organs replaced and many rabbit stem cell transplants. And 2 hearts. He was doing pretty well, all things considered. I was torn between trying to give him the Byakugan or trying to increase his intelligence. Both were things I was interested in, and both had the potential to go wrong. I eyed emergency rations. Perhaps I should let him go free for his services. I wanted to see how long he would live if I consistently gave him stem cell transplants. Rabbits live for a year or two in the wild but can live for as long as a cat or dog when kept as a pet. Perhaps I should get an animal with a shorter lifespan? A mouse then. They only live for a year or two. Sigh. I was already trying to pick up a new project. I didn't need to do this myself. This was now a project for my clones. Can we do a mission? I was bored and wanted some change. All I had been doing lately was experimenting, practicing Fuinjutsu and training. I thought you hated missions. That hasn't changed. I do, but I'm bored. I had hit a bit of a block. Most of the experiments I wanted to conduct involved humans and thus couldn't be done in the village. Let's not change our schedule. Meaning she wasn't interested. Can I do a mission myself? She nodded. Yes, you're a Jonin now. Okay. But try to stay within the land of fire. Skirmishes have been happening along the borders. It seems tensions are growing. What been happening? This is the downfall of having few friends and not speaking to people. I was out of the loop. There have always been skirmishes along the borders, but recently things are heating up. I motioned her to continue. More than a year ago Im assassinated the leader of Tanagakure, and now the Land of Rivers and the Land of Rain are all but officially at war. Oops. That certainly wasn't my intention. Anything else? Hopefully not. Yes, IWA and Kiri have gotten more aggressive. IWA is provoking us and Suna. And Kiri is provoking us and Kumo. She paused for a moment. And the smaller villages are getting cocky and attacking shinobi from other villages. I might have started the third shinobi war a tad bit early. And who are we provoking? Or my timeline was off. Konoha is allied with Kusa, and we are mainly fighting with IWA along the border. IWA and Kusa share. Oh boy. War was coming. I felt part excited and part nervous. Up your training. I stared at my mom in the eyes, trying to convey my seriousness. You as well. I nodded. I looked at our clock. Alright, I'll see you around. I promised Guy we'd run around the village today. Mom nodded with a small smile. Have fun. Will do. A day passed and now it was time to choose a mission. I needed some sort of combat mission so I could test my chakra drill. As of now, it was unnamed. I also wanted to do some experimentation. So, I ideally needed a bandit extermination mission. And sadly, there weren't any of those. Looking at the B ranks, there were a lot of spying and assassination missions, most of which I wasn't interested in. There were no A rank missions available for casual perusing. Those were assigned by the Hokage and contained sensitive matters. So back to the B rank missions. Spying was out as I wanted combat, so assassination it was. There were few good assassination missions. Most of them would involve a lot of stalking and waiting for the target to leave their village. I wasn't too interested in those. Finally, I found something that wasn't total garbage but still sucked for a different reason. There was an IWA Jonin that needed assassinating. Sadly, he also had a Genin team. So, if I didn't want to have a page in the bingo book, I'd have to kill some kids. Which could make me look bad. Though I was a kid myself. Did that make it excusable? After all, I was the only one who knew I was mentally 29. Is it about time I go for that bingo book page? Possibly. The mission didn't say anything about killing the Genin. Alright, it's decided. I'm going to grass. I stood at the gate, pondering my plan of action. I had to get to Grass's border and hunt down one Shiro Renzo. He had black hair and heterochromatic eyes, one being blue and the other green. Hopefully, the eyes and hair meant he wasn't total cannon fodder, though I wouldn't get my hopes up. Regardless of coloring, there could only be one Shiro, and that was me. If I shine the whole way there, I'd make a 3-day trip a 1-day trip, but I'd also spend a lot of chakra. But I did have a big old seal full of chakra. Alrighty. Speed over safety. I shunshine from Konoha to Grass's border with Chikaku no Kyoka active. The chakra drain wasn't as bad as I had anticipated, though I still wasn't fresh enough to fight. I still had a bit of time, so I'd make my way to Grass's capital and stay there for the night. Oh boy! There was a lot of action happening in the capital. Looking around with my Byakugan, I could see 4 people with developed chakra systems bumbling about. I imagine that they're spies. Though why they weren't spying on Grass's hidden village was beyond me. Though I guess the nobles were important as well. I guess it doesn't matter what they're doing, as they were ideal experimental subjects. A quick hinge and I now looked like I was a nondescript brown hair and brown-eyed cannon fodder. I took over a family's couch for the night. Now that I was rested, it was time to go on the hunt. I arrived early so I would have a few days to mess around. I needed to find a place to set up shop and I needed to have a quick look for other spies. My quick search provided both a place to stay and the location of 2 more spies. Both of them were occupying an apartment on the edge of the city near, but not in the slums. One of which was unconscious in front of me. Short stature, dirty blonde hair, and blue eyes. He didn't look like total cannon fodder, though he should have picked a better time to have a nap. A quick tap to the spine and throat meant he wouldn't be moving or speaking anytime soon. I watched his eyes fly open and dart around the room before meeting my own eyes. I mouthed a sorry at him before setting off to capture the second ninja. She had bright yellow hair and purple eyes, marking her as not total cannon fodder as well. She was making some sort of breaded fish and humming a quiet tune, and I approached. A tap to the lower spine and she would walk no more. She collapsed to her knees, bringing her spatula with her. Wah! I taped her spine and throat in quick succession, stopped her from speaking and moving. I dragged her into the room the man was occupying, before going back to finish cooking that fish. Food shouldn't be wasted after all. I now had a full stomach and was ready to experiment. I moved the woman onto their shared bed and stared at them, lost in thought. So, flesh transplant or Byakugan growth. They didn't have similar cells, so there would be rejection. But I couldn't discount the possibility that chakra would somehow stop cell rejection. Madara did successfully transplant some of Hashirama's cells onto himself, though that could be because they were spiritual brothers. Orochimaru and Kabuto also did lots of transplants. Or at least I thought so. I currently had no idea how Kabuto had mixed all those genes into his body. Other spies were running around the city, meaning I had more than one try. So, transplant first and some Byakugan shenanigans later. Or both, I guess it depends on how it goes. It's been a day and things were alright. The flesh graft went alright, there was little rejection. Though it seemed the higher the transplantee's chakra, the lower the cell rejection rate. The man had much less chakra than the woman and had more cell rejection, making the transplant almost useless. Almost. Though this could just be a unique trait that the woman possessed. I'd find out after some more tests. The flesh transplant seemed to provide an additional chakra nature. I'd transplant some of my cells into the man and woman and see if this held. Currently, the woman had a water and wind affinity, and possibly she would have a lightning affinity. Maybe there would be some problems if their affinities countered each other? I guess I'll see. I came back with another test subject only to find my test subjects trying to escape. I dropped the guy I was carrying and made eye contact with the woman. She was dragging her still unconscious partner towards the door where I had just entered. Her recovery marked her as a medical need or someone with a bloodline that provided regeneration of some kind. With the bright hair and purple eyes, I'd bet it was the latter. Hello, I see you are trying to escape. She looked at the guy I had dropped and she pushed her lips together, forming a thin line. A friend of yours? I vaguely gestured to the body I dropped. I again received no answer, though I guessed that she didn't know him. I activated my Byakugan and shunshined behind the woman and closed off the tenketsu in her legs and arms, rendering her immobile. She hit the floor with a grunt. Ugh! Though she remained silent afterwards. I walked back and threw my newest test subject over my shoulder and started towards the bedroom. I now had the men sharing a room and the woman occupying the couch I had been using as a bed. I had to re-injure the man as he had started healing, something I theorized came from the transplant. Though he had very little of the woman's cells, it seems that the transplant was still somewhat of a success. Now I was seated on a chair and was staring at the woman while I checked her over again, looking for whatever mechanism her healing operated on. "So, where are you from?" I got no answer. The woman just stared blankly at the ceiling. Her healing factor operated on a different mechanism than mine and Kushina's. Her healing seemed to be chakra-based. Though originally there was no mix of elements indicating a Keikai Gonkai or Keikai Mora. It seemed like she could burn her chakra to heal. Though this seemed to be a non-conscious process. The downfall to her healing was that it ate up chakra pretty quickly. Though it wasn't much of a downfall if it could heal crippling internal injuries. "So what clan are you from?" Again, I got no answer. "How about this?" I got up and left the room for a few minutes and returned with a severed hand that was still dripping blood. Since you wouldn't talk, I decided that I needed a hand. I gave her a little wave with my acquired appendage. She only spared the hand a glance before looking away. Alrighty. I guess she didn't care about her partner's safety as much as I had thought. I walked away again, heading off to return the hand to its owner. After a few more attempts, I gave up on making the woman talk. I instead returned to the transplants after taking some stem cell samples from her with my Bonson bond and sealing them away. The woman's body easily accepted cells and had a high success rate for transplants. The men fared worse, only accepting the woman's cells and my own and rejecting the cells of each other. Meaning cell rejection had less to do with chakra amount and more to do with whatever bloodlines the woman and I had. She now had 3 chakra natures, and with the addition of a good amount of my cells, her chakra density increased. I think I'll need more test subjects. I crippled everyone again and slapped a chakra restraining seal on the woman's forehead before setting off to capture the remaining 3 spies. It seems that being a spy didn't require a lot of combat power, you just needed to look nondescript. I now had 6 bodies occupying the apartment and it was getting a little hot. The purple-eyed woman integrated with cells extremely well and now had 4 chakra natures, only missing earth. Perhaps her healing healed the cells and integrated them into herself? I wasn't quite sure. Would my body do the same? All 5 of the spies integrated with the woman's cells extremely well regardless of blood type, chakra nature, or chakra amount. My cells had varying success, sometimes being completely rejected and sometimes being completely accepted. I figured that it had something to do with our healing factors. Cell rejection was just an immune response. Meaning the body recognizes the cells as foreign and attempts to kill or eject them. Maybe the body didn't reject the cells if they were beneficial? Or maybe it had something to do with the body's chakra? Though I didn't see any evidence of chakra nature impacting the results. 2 days had passed since I had arrived, meaning I had only a few more days before I had to get the show on the road. I had aged the woman's cells a lot as I had to speed up her cell division to get and integrate cells quickly. So, I guess this was an opportune time to test stem cell transplants? I didn't need most if not all of the people here after all. I grabbed a scroll from my kunai pouch and unfurled it. It was a storage scroll containing different types of bones and bond. I unsealed the hollow ones and prepared to get to work. I drained 2 of the men of stem cells and give them to the woman and see how it goes. The stem cell transplant was a success, though it took me a whole day to replace a good portion of her cells. The stem cells took on the characteristics of her old cells and started producing the same healing chakra she produced by herself. Both neat and weird. Why would someone else's cells produce the woman's chakra? Maybe her cells had a unique structure? I extracted some more samples and prepared for the second round of stem cell transplants. I couldn't find anything different about her cells, which was saddening. I was running out of things to do and wanted to get on with the mission. I wanted to ask her some questions, so I took the chakra restraining seal off her and woke her with a quick tap to the forehead. So, want to answer some questions now? I wasn't too interested in torturing her. I didn't want to start torturing and become unable to stop. I didn't want torture to become a thing for me. The woman didn't answer, she just continued to send the ceiling a faraway look. I sat in silence for a while, contemplating trying to integrate the woman's cells into myself. What have you done to me? Finally, she spoke, her voice hoarse and raspy. I remembered at that moment that I had forgotten to feed my captives. Oops, I need to take better care of my captives. I made a clone and sent him off to the kitchen to get a glass of water. What do you mean? She was probably wondering if I had raped her or something similar. She again fell into silence and my clone returned with the water. The woman was watered by the clone while I started to pack my things. The other spies had provided me with some loot they had hidden in their residences, so I wouldn't be needing a trip to a weapon shop anytime soon. This trip seemed to have proved fruitful. I got a mystery healing bloodline and valuable experience with transplants. Though I had forgotten to try growing a Byakugan in my excitement. I was finished with my packing, so I returned to the woman who the clone had been tending to. We stared at each other for a while in silence, her with hate and me with apathy. My clone was making kissy faces at me from across the room, ruining the mood. I sighed and dispelled it. So, what clan do you come from? She continued, sending me a hateful stare. All right. I was seated and staring at the woman. I was debating letting her and the other surviving test subjects free to see what happened to them later on. The surviving test subjects, male and female respectively, both had 3 chakra natures, both from my own and the woman's cells. So, they were quite valuable. I'd like to see what happens to them in the future. They didn't see my real face or any defining abilities, so it should be fine. Though they did have my cells all throughout them, which could be a problem later. I leaned back and poked the woman in the side with the tip of my foot. Any interest in talking? I gave her 2 more pokes for emphasis. What have you done to me? I poked her again as it seemed to be working. What do you mean? Her eye rolled over and made contact with my own. What happened to my chakra? I sat back and blew out a breath. How honest should I be? My chakra's not the same. Tears started pouring down her face. Oof. That's the end of this tale for now. Part 6 will be coming soon, so subscribe to not miss it. Like if you enjoy the video and comment your thoughts. Check out my other stories here, and with that being said, peace.